Okay, my name's Dan, and I'm a busker here in Melbourne City, and I play the Didgeridoo. Started music lessons about the age of 9, and I was very lucky to learn from a next door neighbour called Colin Offord. And I was lucky because Colin exposed me to creativity in music. So as a kid I was improvising and always had that idea that you do something that expresses you, you can create. It's not for everyone, but it certainly was for me. I really got affected by that. I always had a didge around, I played a bit of didge. And when I first started to play, I thought, what's the story? You know, what's this about? The didgeridoo was invented by a small group of Aborigines from the northeast of Arnhem Land. I was lucky to have a friend who was doing a tour out onto an Aboriginal reserve in an area near Katherine. It's called, the area is called Beswick, and the community is Woogala community. Okay, so I was lucky enough to go out there and my mind was blown by this traditional instrument. So in that area they call it Margot, they don't call it didgeridoo. We were so lucky to be welcomed in. We were shown how to cut didges, and I cut my own didge and cleaned it and shaped it and I painted it. There were two very important moments out on the reserve. One was when we were lucky to be invited to a ceremony. So I got to witness a traditional ceremony with a songman singing in language, singing the story, which is both the law, the geography, instructions on food, laws about the culture, its spirit, its religion, it's everything, all in one. And as he tells the story, the young men would dance and they would animate the story, be the mythical beings, the animals, the characters of the story. The yidaki or the mago, the didgeridoo, was played to accompany, and it would play with lots of power, lots of fire, lots of rhythm and lots of meaning, because he would hear the song, he would understand the meaning and would know what's coming next, because he must signal the dancers. Like the drum in African music, he would tell the dancers, you dance now this way, this movement, this is what comes next. And the bilma is the timekeeper, 2 sticks, bim, 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 keeping the time, so everyone knows the pulse, the beat. And so I got to witness the power of the instrument in its traditional form. And then I spoke to David Blanasi, he's the top elder for that area. And I said, hey, I want to play this instrument. Will you give me permission? What do you think? And he said, you play the instrument. You can see our ceremony. You see, we tell our story. You play your story. And then I went away and realized that my story was completely different to his story, but that the instrument had touched something in me. So with his blessing, I went away, and over many years playing many different types of music. As you've heard in my music, I pull from music from all over the globe, all the different strands of music that I've heard and love, and I bring it to life in a fresh, new way. One of the sorts of music I got into was African, or specifically West African music. That's music that's really driven by rhythm. And the main instrument there is the djembe, which you probably know. It's an hourglass-shaped drum that sits between your legs. That energy that just comes out like fire and just sweeps you off your feet, you know, makes you kind of take a breath and your eyes go wide and you go, wow, you know. So that I kind of got into that. That got into me, you know. I got addicted to that. I thought, yep, the two go together. The didge can be very rhythmic and very fiery, and West African music is very fiery. And so that's the basis of what I do, is I use African-based rhythms, Australian didgeridoo, and bring that rhythm and that feel, that forward motion, that dance energy, and create my music. The didgeridoo for me is not static. It's not something that I've claimed and that's it. It's a journey of discovery. So, you know, it was there in my environment and I saw it and I was interested. I was just drawn to it. And my contact at the start was just small, just the way anyone would be discovering something new. And then at that moment when I traveled to the north and I asked permission, then I crossed over a line inside me. And I don't say everyone should do that, but for me then I felt much more connected to it. Much more like, oh, I can embrace this, I can take it on, and I can play it. And I questioned myself, you know, should I just do whatever I want? And should I try and play like a classical Aboriginal didgeridoo player would play, you know? And then it came clear to me, I don't have to be someone else. I'm allowed to be a modern Australian person, a citizen of Australia, a citizen of the world, and just the way when I was studying music, the culture of music from all over the world came to my ears. For me, playing the didgeridoo in this context was just expressing the music that I feel and I create through this instrument. And yeah, it's uniquely Australian. People know it's from Aboriginal culture, and I think that's wonderful because importantly, I'm sending a message to the world, to the white people of the world, to the Aborigines of the world. We think Aboriginal culture is great. I think it's great. You've produced a musical instrument that I love. So of course I think it's great. And that's a positive message. And it's only by people falling in love with Aboriginal culture, whether it be through the didgeridoo or something else, that they will feel connected to it, that they'll want it to flourish. If people are told, you're bad, you're wrong, you're white, you should stay away, they will. They'll stay away and they won't invest in it. They won't care about it. They won't want it to flourish because they just feel a bit bad and so they back off. But if you want this, if you care about this culture, if you care about reconciliation, if you can care about the continuation of Aboriginal culture, fall in love with it. Take something of it that you get inspired by and connect with it. So the custodians of the instrument come from that area, and it's only with their blessing that you can say, I got permission. that's truth. Now comes the hard part. The hard part of the story is that when there was colonisation, Aboriginal cultures were decimated in many ways, or pushed aside, or marginalised. They had the really toughest time. And the worst of it happened in the south of Australia, where European settlers found the conditions that they liked. So they just took over and started farming and building houses and roads and bridges and taking the place. When the didgeridoo was first found by white people, it was only in this far north area. But of course, now things can travel everywhere. People all over Australia started to want to play the didgeridoo, and people over the world wanted to play the didgeridoo. And Aborigines from all over Australia wanted to claim the didgeridoo and say, it's my instrument from my culture. And that's been difficult. It's a difficult situation because the custodians of the instrument, the traditional owners, they say you can't do that. You can't claim ownership of it. You can play it. You go for your life and play it, and if you want to make it part of your ceremony, do it. If you want to make it part of your culture, do it. But don't claim it as your own, because it's ours. That's what they say. The didgeridoo is also sometimes called a sacred instrument, and therefore you can't play it if you're white or you're not, if you don't have permission or whatever, you can't play it. If you go to the area where it comes from, it's not a sacred instrument, it's a secular instrument. It's an instrument like a violin or a piano or a guitar. It's used in ceremonies, but it's not regarded as sacred in itself. The song is sacred, the spirit is sacred, but the actual instrument is just the instrument. So that's why people from the north of Australia who are the custodians of the didgeridoo feel free to say, you can play it if you come from a different place. If you're an Aboriginal from a different place in Australia, or if you come from overseas, or you're white or black, you can play it, but don't claim it. So that's the truth, and that's the background of the didge. At times, that's controversial. And I've experienced people telling me I shouldn't play the didgeridoo. And sometimes they put a lot of passion and anger in. And I have to accept they come from a place where they think they're doing the right thing, or maybe they've been through a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. They've maybe had their culture taken away, or they feel like they've had their land taken away, and they've got every reason to feel bad about things. So I don't argue with people. I say, look, I'll have a conversation with you if you like. I'd love to tell you my story, but if they're just angry, I can't really do much. I just have to accept it, you know. And I don't want to make them feel worse, because I feel for them. You know, that's really bad. If you feel so, if you have all of that suffering, I don't want to make it worse. So that's my story of the didgeridoo.